Thanks for joining us, Steve. We're going to go for a bit of an update plus today, I think, aren't we?
Yeah.
Really get it all out there. We'll start with Tuesday night against Walton Casuals, a 2-1 win. Slightly brighter, still issues, but slightly brighter.
Yes, I don't think anybody's. It wasn't totally convincing. I think we're fully aware of that. I think we were. It was a little bit of finding our way in the dark a little bit with regard to the system and and the players in that system. We had a couple back, so we had a little bit better balance. And in the end, I don't think we could have complained if they'd taken a point. But we've nicked it in the end, and hey, there's been plenty of games this season where we've dropped points that we should never have. So we'll take that. We know that we've probably got away with it a little bit, but it was a step up on Saturday. There's no doubt about that. I mean, having a couple of players back and Ollie Knowles back in at centre midfield still makes a difference. But yeah, a long way to go yet to get back to the levels that we know that we can get to.
Despite efforts we've mentioned in the previous video, trying to bring a player in, it didn't manage to happen in the end for Tuesday, did it? And so
it didn't. No. I'll give you a couple of examples. We two lads that we went for out of clubs have decided that they'd rather sit and not play and stay at that football club for until January, which I don't understand. I think possibly to do with the level. You tend to, if you go to the next level of Conference South, you tend to be able to get players a little bit easier on loan players. The two loan players that we tried to get, one had played in the Conference South last year, so I think it might be that this might have been perceived as not the level that he wanted to go back in at. And I had a couple of players from a professional club all ready to sign. We hadn't watched actually, and they played two really good players, and their club realised that in fact they didn't think they had a game this week because it's International Week. But in point of fact, the Football League have said that they've got to play. So the lads that we had coming here have now been dragged back into their first team squad because they're short of players, because they're going to lose players to the international game. So yes, that just about, I thought, when I got the phone call, I thought it just about sums it up.
Sums it up, so
yes.
A few I'll go back slightly to Tuesday. A few frustrating times. I do remember a ball looking like it was heading out, and it was assumed it was heading out, and it never headed out. And I know you went mad on the touchline because our lot switched off and they kept it in.
Yes.
And
well, they ran to get it.
Yeah, they did,
but we couldn't. Yeah. So that's why I went mad. Yeah.
But I mean, there was a few frustrations, wasn't it? It's still far from perfect.
Oh no, look, we're not sat here saying that we've turned the corner and everything's great. I don't, nobody's pretending otherwise. It was a tough game, and I think on the night they probably deserved something out of it. So, we know we can do a lot better. I think we can do better. I think that I think we're learning constantly about what we've got, and obviously systems and the shape. You're having to keep changing that because of various suspensions and injuries. That's fine. We've got it's a learning curve for everybody, as in trying to fit the players that we've got into a system and a shape that works. But it was better.
Bit of a stepping stone.
It was, yes. Not certainly not the end game, but it was a step in the right direction, albeit a small one.
We've just released news on our website about Tom Blair. I will just point out that we might have to cut parts of this out because it depends on what's released. But we'll talk about Tom Blair very briefly. Yeah. He's been recalled by his club, Eastleigh. We've got to get what we say.
Yeah. No, I mean it's the timing of it. Not great for us. I just felt like Tom was finally starting to take on board what we're trying to get across to him. Certainly the other day defensively he was much better. He's given us that little bit of shape and balance out possession, which is what we've really been after. Since he's come to the club, and also he's going to give you something going forward. There's no doubt about that. So you just feel like you're getting on top of the situation. You feel like actually, we could have a good player on our hands here. Both with and without the ball, he can be effective.
He seemed to have grown into it, and especially as his back's against the wall, he seemed to really take a grip on it.
Yeah, he has, and as I said, you're seeing somebody who's taken on board what you're trying to get across to him, taking on board that he's got to learn that he has to be better when we haven't got the ball. And I felt like we were really making progress, and Tuesday was one of those sort of moments. Actually, we might have actually got through to him. It really looks like he's trying to take on board what we're trying to get across, and he's gone, mate.
Yeah.
2 days
so,
later.
we might have to cut this bit out. I couldn't say in the article that it's because he looks like he's off to another club, Weymouth. So hopefully we'll be able to keep that in, and that's been announced. So we wish him all the best.
Yeah, we can. I mean, ultimately, I rang Tom, and Tom said, he'd like to go to take the opportunity, and we're not here to stand in anyone's way.
Yeah.
We've had players before, Dom and Tom, and and various players who've gone on to better things, and we're not here to stop that happening.
I've had quite a few requests to ask you about Jack Ball and his lack of starting and things like that. So what's your thoughts on Jack? Why is he not in that team?
Well, when we obviously it's been a little bit. It's been difficult because we've played a 2 at the back, we played a 3 at the back. Jack came in, and obviously Charlie Kennedy had to go to right back, and Jack then came into the side. Relatively a fit side. We did okay actually. Jack did fine. Jack's not a left back, so it's not a position that we can play. Jack's not really a full back, left or right back. I know people say, why don't you play him at left back? He's not a left back, and particularly at home. You've got to have players. Our fullbacks are 2 players who get a lot of time and space on the ball at home, because teams often are subservient to us. So to have somebody who's right-footed as a left back in that situation, who's going to be allowed to have the ball and come into areas, not ideal. Now, if you're saying from a centre half perspective, obviously Charlie Kennedy and Sam Roberts were fantastic last year. They were my first choice 2 centre halves, but I think by their own admission they haven't been played to the standard that they probably might have. So Jack's very close. Jack. It was no surprise if Jack was back in the team, within the next week. So he's very close to that. We're aware of Jack, but do you leave Charlie Kennedy out? Do you leave Sam Roberts out? At this stage, we've gone with those 2. They did all right the other night, but I do take on board that it's not a position at fullback that Jack can play. We played Jack left of the 3 down at Yate, and it didn't work. He was at fault for a couple of goals. Sam Roberts was at fault for a goal. Charlie Kennedy was at fault for a goal. So it didn't really work. So it's almost 3 for 2. So if you're leaving Charlie Kennedy out, I'm sure there are people who say, why are you not playing Charlie Kennedy? You leave Sam Roberts out, I'm sure there'll be people who would say, why are you not playing Sam Roberts? So it's that situation. But no, he's certainly, when he's come in, he's done well. He's a brilliant lad. And if over the next week or so he's back in the side and playing, I don't think it'll be a surprise to anyone.
Something that gets flung at us, usually by opposition fans, but I've had some of our own fans fire this at us recently, is the budget. We get called Moneybag Salisbury, and we're not quite sure where that comes from, because we're certainly not. Our budget. This is something well ahead of everybody else's, apparently.
We need to clarify exactly what's happening here, because this is quite ridiculous. We played Walton Casuals on Tuesday night. Little Walton Casuals, whose budget is bigger than ours. We played Dorchester earlier in the season. Dorchester's budget is bigger than ours. Now, people are going to go, well, that can't be the case. I said to him, I spoke to their chairman, Tony Gale. I know him very well from Sky and the bits and pieces when we've worked together. I said, I don't know how you do that. He said, I've got some pals in London who put some money in. We did a function the other day and we made 15 grand out of it. And I said, what about your overheads? I said, we don't really have them. We've got a 4G pitch. We've got very few stewards. We've got no overheads with regard to anything other than the council and it's a community club that run it. So we don't pay rent and all that. I said so. Our expenditure at this football club would be as much, if not more, than Walton Casuals. But that's not on the football side. That is on. We have a water system that requires an estimate of £10,000 to put it right. We've got a mower that we need £8 grand to replace the mower because it's broken down. We've got stewards that take out every game, take out probably 2 good players because of the ground and the requirements, the safety requirements to facilitate having a game here. We've got a rent on the ground that takes out probably 2 really good players. All that has to come out of the playing budget. The chairman's made it quite clear. What this club generates, it will put back into the football club. But it's not going to do any more than that. So we have now, we've got a budget that is mid to lower sort of table, and that's a statement. That's a fact of life. This is not a club that is going to be run like it was before. Now, if that's what people want, then that's not going to happen. And people can complain and they can say, well, we haven't got this quality, we haven't got that player, because we cannot pay that money to get that player. It's as simple as that. We live within our means. That means that we're 6th in the league. You wouldn't believe it, but we're 6th in the league. We shouldn't be. With our budget, we should be with Swindon. We shouldn't be with Dorchester, because the only thing that shouldn't happen is we should never get relegated out of the stage. But we've got no right to be in the top 5. I mean, people turn up. Hendon the other day. That's a budget equal to ours. Yeah, it's little Hendon that we should be beating. 10 times out of 10. That's not going to happen. We lost 3 players to Taunton last year. Because we couldn't match. One of them came back to me. One of the players came back to me and said, I'm not even going to negotiate with you because you won't get anywhere near what I've been offered. So that's fine. Good luck. And that's not an issue. We accept that. So if anything, it should be from my perspective, I should be banging on the door saying we want more money. No, because that's how we run the football club, and I accept that's how we run the club. And I always have. I work for a thoroughly decent, one of the most decent men I've ever met in football. So there is a trade-off, there's no doubt about that. But he runs his football club exactly where it should be. And if you want to go back to the old days, that's fine, but it's not going to happen under him or me. It's as simple as that.
It didn't end well, did it? Some people have put out the point about dead players getting their chance. Two of the dead players are registered as first team players.
Yeah.
So their point of view is, rather than playing some players out of position and things like that, why aren't they getting their chance?
Because they're quite simply they're not at this stage ready. That is the bottom line. You're playing against you're 5 leagues below. You're playing against sides that are would not be comparable to reserve sides that we're playing. So there's definitely improvement. There's definitely some good players with potential. There's no doubt about that. But there is not one player who's ready to be a regular in the first team. That is a statement of fact. And to judge players against a Luggershaw or whatever that I've seen up here, and I've seen them win 10-0, 6-0, 8-1. That's not a guide. A guide is when they come in with us and and they get their chance. And to be fair, from the start of the season to now, we've looked at certain players at that level, and there's some coming through that are showing definite potential. But there's a huge difference between winning games at that level and coming into the level that we're talking about now, that we require, that's better than we've got, and being able to hold your own. So it's not a case of players playing that position that you can just bring in kids in, because you put someone into that, you could ruin them.
You've got to protect them.
You've got to protect them. They've got to be good enough. And at this stage, they're not ready. It's as simple as that. The 1 or 2 that we've seen, the Devon Arnolds and the 1 or 2 that we're aware of, have been brought into the first team makeup. He's had a couple of 2 or 3 starts as a substitute, to come on as a substitute. He started in a difficult game against Swindon Supermarine. There's no doubt about that. And he'll get another chance, and we'll keep trying to give that open that door and open that passage for the young lads to come through. But you're talking about a huge difference in quality between the teams that they're playing and the teams that we're playing.
And of course, sitting in both camps, they can obviously helps development as well. They're getting used to being around the first team and playing high level football at times when they get their chance, but developing their game within the development squad.
Yeah, and they need to get into Wessex 1. They need to get out of that league and play in a league that is going to provide, as you say, more of a challenge and give us a better idea of the quality we've got.
Okay, let's look forward to this Saturday's FA Trophy game at Plymouth Parkway. I know most of the lads and yourself are heading down there on the Friday to make sure you're well rested and fresh for the game. And those that live closer, obviously, it's not such an issue. But good one to look forward to. And
it's another example of how we try and save money. We don't take a coach. No. So this is going to come out of what normal clubs would take a coach, spend a fortune on a coach. We played the other night against on Saturday against Hendon, and they rolled in with this.
That's a very nice coach.
Really nice coach. It's one that everybody stands out for. But that's Hendon. We go to Hendon and we will drive. We'll take the minibus and we'll drive, because we know that we can't afford £600 for a coach and a driver for the day. That's not how we work. We never have. I think the only one time we've ever taken a coach was, I think, the semi-final of the Vars down at Hereford. Aside from that, we've never used a coach. So there's lots and lots of ways that we're trying to save money, and we're trying to do it so that ultimately we have to have money to put out on this ground. We rent the ground. Anywhere else you'd rent, the land, the person who owns it would be responsible for anything that went wrong. But it's not. That's not how the lease is here. So we have to pay rent, but we also have to write if the pitch goes wrong, if something goes wrong, then we have to put that right. So yes, we're going down. We've booked. Jim obviously booked the.
Cheap and cheerful.
Yes. So
but comfy bed. That's all.
I'm not sure. It's not going to be the most salubrious place. I don't envisage, and I'm not sure it will be the Ritz by any stretch of the imagination. So we're all sort of waiting with bated breath. But we're going to go down sort of late Friday, no evening meal. Everyone's going to eat at home. We'll jump in the cars, get down there as soon as we can, and then, as you say, hopefully, we'll be well rested for the game.
Yeah, the aim is to arrive fresh. Anything on kind of starting lineup, things like that?
No, I mean, as you said, we're hoping we might get one player in before that game, but there's not going to be any real sort of deluge of players. Unfortunately, I've literally spent 5 days on that phone trying to get players in, and it's as I say, it's one of those where if a player's asking for the sort of money that the players that we've been speaking to are asking, we're not going to do it. Somebody else might, Taunton might, a Farnborough might. I mean, that's another thing. It's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Farnborough have just spent nearly £10,000 on a player from Swindon who's not a regular in Swindon's side. And giving him, and the wages he's got are £200 a week more than we pay our top paid player. So I'm just trying to get a context. I'm not providing excuses. I'm trying to get a context as to where we are, because people come here, look at our ground, and automatically think that we're going to be the ones who pay the money. We're not.
You're going to sign it? So in our plans for a fans forum, which we've been after doing since the start of the season actually, but we took our time due to obviously the early fun enough week with COVID and stuff like that. We did mean to do it before now, but we're finally getting around to a fans forum, which we're aiming to do start of December sometime.
Yeah, end of November, start of December.
Yeah, we just need to tie the date down, but something for the fans to attend and have their say if they would like.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are happening at the football club that people don't fully understand. There's a lot of things being said. So it's been strange the last week or so. It's almost that surreal feel around the place of people. I don't know. There's been a negativity that I don't understand. I get that. Obviously we've had a couple of weeks where aside from Gosport, it's been a difficult couple of games. There's no doubt that Hendon was poor, and the other night, we certainly can do a lot better. But we are 6th in the league. We're not 6th from bottom. We've no right to be, to win this league. As I said before, the budgets and where we are don't dictate that we're actually punching above where we should be. So we're doing okay. I just think that as a football club, I think that people have to understand we're probably at our ceiling for what we are. This is a Southern Prem side now. A Southern Prem side that we're all trying to do as well as we can in this league. But we've done over the last 4 or 5 years. We've done really well. We've had 2 promotions, 2 playoffs. we're probably batting above where we should be at this stage. So I don't think there's room for, I think there's obviously room for us to, for improvement, but I also think there's room for optimism. I don't think it's as bad as it feels, and as often a lot of people are making out. So we know we can do better. I'm the first one to admit that, but there are extenuating circumstances, and when we get our players back and we get a fit-ish squad, I think we'll more than hold our own, and that's all we can ask for at this level. We're not going to go through this league, with a dose of salts, because that's not how it works. There are teams with double our budget. We played Gosport 2 weeks ago, and their budget is double ours. They've got something like 25, 26 players, all well-paid players. They've got a chairman who's put an astronomical amount of money in, but he can afford to do that, and good luck to them. That's how they can do that. But every club's similar to, they'll have periods. This club's had it, but can you sustain that? When that chairman goes at Gosport, they won't be able to sustain that sort of level of finance. And that's where we are now. We're a club who've been twice into administration, into liquidation, and we're not going to go back down that route. And I think from our perspective, the chairman and mine, I think we're doing what's best for the club. We're looking after the club. And whereas it feels like people think we're doing the opposite. We're not.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us, Steve. And we'll go Saturday and hopefully get through the next round. Yeah, it'd be nice if we've got, as long as nobody else calls anybody back or nobody else gets injured, we've got 11 players, we'll have a go, promise. Brilliant. Cheers, Steve. Cheers. Bye.